What's up, guys? This is Astranox. It's time for the showcase of Spirit Eye Celine with 15 skill up. So I originally had her on a very high speed build, but that build was atrocious. Now I changed her build and it's a total different ball game right there. So I have her on speed crit. If I had a penetration set, I would use it instead of crit. You know, speed penetration, speed crit, that works. You could have her on lifesteal penetration or crit or immunity. And Dust Devil works beautifully with her. If you get lucky, of course, it works with her counter attacks, even the enhanced ones. So that's very important to know. It can happen twice. The enhanced ones can happen back to back on a counter attack on her turn. And the damage is surprisingly high. Like I got very surprised by the damage she's able to deal. So almost 4,000 attack, almost 300% crit damage. Not that much speed. The key is to have her go after your damage dealers because you want to put immortality on them after everyone went. So then it's the time of the enemy to go and you have immortality so they can't take you down. But there are counters, guys. There's a lot of counters. You have to understand that. Now this hero cannot be brought in all situations. That's the big issue with this hero. Immortality, if it's stripped, you are in big trouble. So with my super high speed build, what happens is that I put it up, right? And then, of course, they just like strip it. There's so many different ways. Reduce buff duration, like Ram Politis, Angel of Light Angelica. There's so many heroes that can remove your debuff or can reduce your buff duration or can apply Unable to Buff debuff. It is so bad. But if you have her go last, I mean, in a control environment like the arena, the AI is just using their skill 3. They're doing their normal rotation. But if you're fighting a player in real-time arena, world arena, what happens is that they will delay that skill that removes your buffs, reduce buff duration, Unable to Buff debuff might get applied. Like, yeah, they're not AIs, so they will see you coming. If you don't use, that's the thing. You can't do the same thing versus a real player. So keep all these things in mind. The damage, it looks good. The damage looks good. Her design, 10 on 10. Very, very nice hero, right? Her skill, she's got new things implemented into the game, new mechanics. The revive with immortality, that's huge right there. The counter attack with the enhanced counter attack that removes the buffs from herself and deals more damage because it penetrates 35% of the target's defense. And it works with a penetration set as well. You could have Eliha's Knife artifact on her. If you don't like Dust Devil because it's a 30% chance at plus 30, Dust Devil, 30% chance to attack again with a basic skill, which is a skill number 1. Well, that's the thing. You can always use Eliha's Knife. The damage will be higher, more reliable damage. And if you get the enhanced counter attack, 35% penetration plus the Eliha's Knife 20%, like that's real good right there. And since she goes last and you use the skill 3, she has to wait the whole turn to go again, right? Then of course the enemy will have lost some health, which means your Eliha's Knife will be activated. So that's really good right there. So as you can see, I'm using various teams to fight the enemy. Like Ram's a big problem because if you attack one of her allies, she can just counterattack your whole team, reduce buff duration by 1 turn. That immortality is gone. It's gone and then you will be in big trouble. But if you can keep the immortality on your whole team, especially on Spirit Eye Celine, she will do these counterattacks. And of course I'm fighting the AI, so dark targets are attacking her if she's the sole light hero in the team, which means more counterattacks are happening compared to if I was fighting a player. They might be maybe avoiding her, but they kind of have to work on taking her out because, she can cycle fast and then she can get that skill 3 to happen again, and then she cannot be one-shotted because she can only take 51% of her health in damage when you have the skill 2 maxed out. So yeah, she's definitely going to be a threat on the battlefield, especially if she's paired with a lot of high offense heroes. And that's how you should be using this hero. On a with a slower team, I don't think it's going to work too well. You need to have good offense. and she can act as a damage dealer. Of course, when it's her first turn, unless it's very urgent and you need to down that target, you could use Soulburn skill 1 into the skill 3, which I've done. You can, skill 3, wait it out, and hope. I mean, you're not going to be bringing her versus a team that has a bunch of like dispelling, buff removal, enable to buff debuff, buff duration reduction. You don't want to bring her in there. So of course, if you have some of your best gear on her, you got her at plus 15 skill up, and you got her shiny new toy, you're bringing her in World Arena, pick her near the end, guys. If you pick her at the start, it's gonna go real bad for you. So yeah, definitely have her go last in the team, and you can stretch that immortality. And if you have heroes that can replenish their own health because they are on lifesteal, that's the thing. Tempest Siren on a lifesteal build is very strong. So lifesteal set on Spirit Eye Celine could definitely work very, very well. She does have sustain on skill 1, but it's just gonna push it even further. And it's gonna be so much harder for the enemy to take her out. Even in a situation where they don't have any way to take the immortality off of her, and those counterattacks are happening because if they hit her with a critical hit, right, she's gonna counterattack. And then if you have her on Dust Devil, and that thing triggers, it doesn't need to trigger. She still deals very solid damage, and it's free damage. It's lifesteal on that damage, and yeah, if you have her on a lifesteal set too, that is so much more healing on herself, and they're gonna have a hard time. And it's the time of, let's say they're a big damage dealer to go. Well, they can't one-shot her if she has over 51% of her maximum health. So yeah, very interesting hero. Initially, I wasn't sold on her kit. It didn't make too much sense to me because I thought that her damage was bad. Because in the preview, the damage was really low. But when the enhanced counterattack happens, the enhanced skill 1, I forgot the name of the skill. You can see Dust Devil here. Double, And the enhanced one. That's huge right there. It wasn't even her turn. It was a counterattack. So definitely a lot of potential out of a Dust Devil trigger. It's 30% of the time, so you can have her on other artifacts. Now, I tried her on Rihanna and Luciella thinking, oh man, I'm going to cycle her S3 faster. It's going to be pretty nice. Imagine I can skill 3 into the skill 1. Terrible idea, because she's going to lose the immortality off of herself. That's the whole point. You need to have her on immortality. Don't worry too much about having her cycle. Now, another thing is, I tried her on Warhorn. That's another issue, because if you get unlucky, the enemy counterattacks a bunch of times, she's going to cut because of the Warhorn, and then she's not going to go last anymore. She's going to cut ahead of one of your ally, and then they're going to have immortality. It's going to be their turn. They're going to waste it. Like, the immortality is going to be gone, and then they're going to be vulnerable. So you can see here, Growth attack buff on Arbiter Vildred. So, that happens all the time to a lot of players, and you can lose your whole team, but she cannot go down if she has more than 51% of her maximum health. And then if the S3 is ready, you can just bring the whole team back up with immortality. And it definitely feels good when that happens. Even if they're throwing so much big damage at you. Landy is so dangerous when you have buffs and she's just using skill 3 non-stop. But as long as you're able to bring your life back on top of above 51%, you will be buying some time, allowing you to potentially use the skill 3 again in a battle. And if the enemy doesn't have enough offensive power, then you can definitely use that S3 multiple times. Now, of course, she can be disabled in all sorts of ways, guys. Like, she's not a hero that can... Yes, she can remove a debuff from herself when she triggers the enhanced skill number 1. Now, that's good and all, but if she gets crippled with multiple debuffs, and the one debuff that got removed, or you didn't trigger the enhanced skill 1, then of course she's gonna be like, she's gonna stay in stun. She could have attack break, decrease hit chance. There's all sorts of really annoying debuff. Could be a silence. There's a lot of different heroes that are going to mess you up in the current meta. Like Bellion, right? If you're trying to use your souls to soulburn her S1 to get the S3 back up ASAP, like you don't have soul gain with Bellion. And then all the counterattacks happening well, that means that the S1 of Billion can strip, a buff, and she can cripple your team with debuffs. So that's a big problem right there. Ram, Violet is hard to take down. Even if you have your whole team with immortality, but he keeps on evading, it doesn't matter too much because he's just gonna bring his life back up. Keeps on evading, you're not landing a crit on him, and it's gonna go downhill real quick. And they can just single out Spirit Eye Celine and you are done for. Now if the enemy has a lot of offensive power, they are outspeeding you, then they can just take her out of the equation. She doesn't go in stealth like a Tempest Cern or something like that. So quite a few things to worry about. Now as you can notice, I'm using Roside as my Combationist booster. That means I don't have to have super high speed on all my heroes. I just need one hero with a Combationist pushing skill like Roside or Judith, Desert Joe Bazaar. There's a lot of them. Or you can be using a hero that pushes Combationist, but it's not a non-attack skill. It's an attack that boosts Combationist. So having that will allow you to have your team go back to back. You don't have to worry about Politis, which is a big deal. You don't have to worry about maybe picking Politis, but that's the thing. If the enemy picks Politis, right? Let's say your non-attack skill is Spirit Eye Celine's skill number 3. Then what happens is that you put the immortality on your team, right? Now Politis gets triggered, right? If you're fighting Politis, you want her to trigger her S2 before it's the time of ML Celine to go with the S3, because she will just reduce buff duration by 1 turn, which means your immortality is gone. It's gone. So what was the point, especially if no one was down already? You didn't revive no one, immortality is gone. What was the point? Okay, at least you got the buff that is non-removable, on Celine. So at least she can start triggering counter attacks when she gets hit by a critical hit. So that's good. But that's the thing. The original build that I wanted to run on her is like high speed because I want her to get the S3 off ASAP. The good part is that she does have, her undispellable buff, but the bad part is that the immortality is on your team too early on, which doesn't make sense. So by having a Combationist booster, you don't have to worry about having super high speed on her because she's gonna go before the enemy, of course, unless you get outsped, right? But if you make that happen, she can definitely bring the pain. And as you can see, when you have souls and you start to soul burn her S1, and like it's a lot of damage, and it's a lot of damage without even having Dust Devil trigger. So imagine if it does, or imagine I was running another artifact like Elia's Knife. The Guild War Unity artifact, like I'm not running it on her. Ran is running it, so there's better contenders for an artifact like that, especially since ML Celine, she needs to use the skill 3 at the start, and you need to wait a whole turn before she can actually start dealing damage. That's another big problem, is when you're cleaving, when you're doing single target bursts, you need to take down the targets. At least one. Start by taking out the highest priority heroes. You want to assassinate them. And if you can't do that because, you gotta use the S3 first and wait a whole turn before you can go again, and that's gonna be problematic. If the enemy just ignores her when she can start to counterattack, right? That's another problem. You can see here, immortality, no one goes down. Very nice right there. It feels good when you're able to do something like that, but it doesn't mean it's gonna happen often, right? Like, the enemy will see you a mile away coming, they will see your plan. So you gotta pick her at the end in World Arena, and you need to make sure that they don't have, 2 ways to remove, buffs off of you, or stop you from getting a buff because of unable to buff debuff. So having something like an immunity set, if you don't have high speed on your team, if you're not running a Combationist booster, is definitely a viable thing. You can definitely boost her survivability, but it is sort of like counterintuitive because imagine like Tempest Cern, people don't build high health or defense on Tempest Cern because she cannot be one-shotted, right? Spirit Eye Celine is not as strong in terms of like that passive, but she does have lifesteal built into her kit. If you have lifesteal set on top of it, and she doesn't have much health. So that means it's easier for her to get back up to 100% health, right? But if you had a lot of health, it's going to be harder. So that's the thing. And then you're going to be sacrificing a lot of like offensive power, speed, all sorts of stats. At least you don't need to build effectiveness on this hero, right? So that's one thing you don't have to worry about. But I feel like that's the better way to use this hero, by having a combat chance booster in the team, no matter who it is. Non-attack skill, attack skill. If you push the combat chance of your team, you can go back to back and you have her go last. And then she sort of feels like a closer Charles because she like kind of closed the battle. Like she's there for the cleanup process, especially when you're dealing a lot of damage early on. You're cleaving your single target burst. Things are happening really fast on turn 1 and 2, but she's there for the cleanup process. That's what I feel like, unless you are lucky with counter attacks. It really depends who you are fighting. Stats of my heroes. Let us know what you guys think about all that in the comment section. But I don't feel like this is a hero that by any mean is a must pull. Very hard to gear for. You need to have the right team around you. You need to be fighting the right players. Anyways, that's it for this one. I'm Astranox. Good luck with all you do. Peace out for now.